25 seconds. 20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal.
Everybody, you did one hell of a job. And the only thing else I can say is, how about this, Cowboys? Yeah!
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running.
How about them Cowboys? Indeed.
We have a liftoff.
What up? Welcome, everybody. I'm in Studio Day Heffrey. Dane Brugler is in Studio Day Dane. Bryan Broaddus is in the closet at 105.3 The Fan. Welcome to Plug and Play, one of your 15 favorite draft shows. Or 10 favorite. Maybe it's in your top 5. You let us know. Hello, Brian. Hello, Dane. How are we this afternoon? Evening.
We're doing good. I'm doing good. I know that. I've got Hellman's giving us all these homework assignments of Tell Me More guys. So I'm about to have a word with him about these Tell Me More guys we're watching.
Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is probably just open the Beast and just start reading it to him.
Start reading directly out of the Beast. That's a great plan.
Because sometimes as a guy who's retired, I'm doing way too much. I just wrote a thing for D Magazine, and then there's radio, and then there's the draft show, and then there's Hellman's homework on ninth rounders. And I'm like, dude, Dane Brugler exists. Why do I have to watch a ninth rounder? So Dane, just be ready. I'm going to blatantly steal all your crap tomorrow morning.
Wouldn't be the first
Plug
time.
and play, man. Plug
Well,
and
last time.
Whoa! It'd be the first time for me, I think.
Oh no, yeah, I meant for you, or not for you. I mean, Control C,
names?
Control V.
Who steals stuff, Dane? You want to name any names?
Yep, constantly. I'm telling you, constantly.
I didn't hear it.
Is there a mute button on this thing?
Thank you to Mazeth, who's getting it popping already in the super chat, just saying, sup, boys. Obviously, get your questions in here. Super chats probably give you a better chance to be read. Because Dane's got a kid that's playing baseball, which means that he's got to buy bats and gloves and stuff. And Broaddus has a kid that's damn near drinking age, so we're trying to get him some gambling money and stuff like that.
He needs gambling money for sure.
Speaking of which, I'd like to thank my new partner sponsor, our friends at Bet Online. They continue to be the number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. I tell you what, I will not be betting on the Texas Rangers at Bet Online, not until Jack Leiter gets here. But MLB is back. Get you some of that action. Bet Online, your continued source for all your sports wagering needs, including live betting, your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. Super easy to get started. Head to the website or use your mobile device to join. Use the promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. Dane, who are you betting to be the first overall pick?
If you ask me today, right now, I'm still going with Aiden Hutchinson. I think he is the favorite as of right now, but it's by far a sure thing. And been saying for a while, Travon Walker out of Georgia. Would not be surprised if he's the best defensive player to come out of this draft. It's a very possible scenario. So when you look at the number one thing we have to remember, teams draft traits. They don't draft production. They don't draft what you've done. They draft traits. Nobody has better traits than in this draft than Travon Walker. So if he goes number one, it shouldn't surprise anybody.
Dane, what are people telling you then about this? I mean, you have a lot of connections in the league and stuff, but is there something that Trent Baalke sees? Is this Aldon Smith? What are we seeing with Walker that's making Baalke think that he could be the number one pick?
Well, yeah, and I think the Aldon Smith, that's Trent Baalke, his favorite draft pick he's ever made, and it was largely made because of Aldon Smith's traits coming out of Missouri. So I think when you bet on the traits, more often than not, a lot of times it translates. And with Travon Walker, a lot's been made of the lack of pass rush production, but it's so important when you factor in the context that he wasn't asked to rush the passer. So is he unproven in some of those areas in terms of sequencing and patching together a coordinated rush plan? Yeah, it's kind of like a lot of these players. It's not that they're deficient in that area. It's just that they're unproven and they need to get better. But when you have the traits that a guy like Travon Walker has, it's 270 pounds, 35.5-inch arms, and you run a 4.5 and you run a sub 7-second 3-cone. I mean, those are just ridiculous number. He's an outstanding, dominant run defender, and he's a guy that's great football character. And if you have your copy of The Beast, you read about his background, and this guy helped his high school basketball team to 75 straight wins, couple state championships, over 1,000 points. Like, he's just an all-around great athlete. So I think it's easy to hit your wagon in Travon Walker and see what happens.
Let me ask you just real quick, and this will be my last question about this. Did when you started, you were on this guy from the jump, but did you ever think that he would end up to be the top player on your draft board?
And he's not my top player on my draft board. I still have Hutchinson, but no, I understand what you're saying. Because I've been saying this since the fall. Like, it would not shock me at all if you get out of your time machine from 3 years from now and you tell me that Travon Walker is the best defensive player from this draft. That's a possible outcome that I thought you saw based on the tape in the fall. So, is it the most likely outcome? I wouldn't say that, or else he would be my number one player on my board. But that's at least a possible outcome. So, I think a lot was made of the combine, and understandably so, just with the way he tested. But again, I I saw this on tape. I mean, this is to me, that's my evaluation based off what he did on tape. So I understand why some are skeptical. Certainly understand. They want to see it before you invest that high of a pick on a guy, and I get it. But I'll take my chances on the trades with him.
I kind of want to see a world where now that Jerry Jones is talking about trading up, I kind of want to see a world where Kayvon Thibodeau takes a slide, because everybody's going to talk about things that I don't and can't know. And like guys like both of you can probably do the homework to find out more about people personally or football character or hobbies or whatever. But just turning on tape and watching Kayvon Thibodeau one-on-one against an offensive tackle, let that dude get outside the top 10 and watch how quick I call the star and try to buy the team so that I can go get him. Like is he going to have like a real life fall? Is that possible? Or are we talking about he, quote, falls to 7?
So I've got a 7-round mock coming out tomorrow. All 262 picks you can find on The Athletic. Please check it out. Put a lot of work into it. Kayvon Thibodeau, spoiler, I've got him going 4 to the Jets. So I'm not seeing a fall there. Now, if he gets past, if he doesn't go 2 to Detroit, and he doesn't go 3 to Houston, and Lance Zierlein, who I do a podcast with at The Athletic, big Houston guy, he doesn't think that he's going to be a fit for Houston at 3. At 4, that's where I think it would make sense. But if he gets past 4, I don't think the Giants are in on Kayvon Thibodeau. So he gets past 5. Yeah. He's going to get past 6. He's going to get past 7. The Falcons, they could go in so many directions. That's a possible landing spot for him. So when it's all said and done, I don't think he's going to fall outside the top 10. Could he? Sure. But I don't think it's a likely outcome. I've got him at 4 to the Jets. I think that the way they value pass rush, and especially if Aiden Hutchinson and Travon Walker off the board, I think it's very likely we see Kayvon Thibodeau still in the top 5.
Yeah, I did a podcast with the Giants the other day. They're hunting corner and offensive tackle with the 2 names. When they were asking me, it was Sauce Gardner. It was who's the best fit at right tackle for the Giants. They weren't thinking so much about the left tackle. They were thinking about who the best fit was at right tackle.
They want Andrew Thomas to be the left tackle. Yeah. Who'd you say for the best fit at right tackle?
I put the Alabama kid. I put Evan over there. So yeah, I mean that's who I thought. And
thinking alike.
Yeah, and then and I said take Sauce and take the Alabama tackle, and you're good to go. I thought.
Yep.
All right, shout out to the supporters here of Plug and Play. Vance, he said, I've been reading The Beast all the time at work. No snitching. Logan Hall is intriguing to me. Would he be a good fit with Dallas? Looks like a 3-4 end to Vance.
I kind of thought that myself. I really
sure.
did.
No, I think he's scheme versatile, though. I really do. I think because his most comfortable position is probably 3 technique.
That's why I graded him myself. Yeah.
But he's built like a 5 technique, and I am infatuated with if you give this guy a runway and let him, because he accelerates so well with his first and second steps. let him use that length where he can lean into guys, and I think he'll put blockers in reverse. So I really like him as a inside-outside player. Hey, you're going to line him up in 3 technique on some downs. You're going to line him up on the edge on other downs, and just use him in different ways. So I've got him going in the early second. He's still a young player. He's only 21 years old, a young player for a senior. He's a guy that should have redshirted based off of his experience in high school, but Houston needed him to play. So there's a lot to like about Logan Hall, especially if he makes it to the second round.
I think the one thing that, and Dane, I totally agree with you on this one. And I think the one thing that you could say about this guy is he doesn't get stuck in one place too often. You don't see people control him. He's generally the one controlling you with the length and then his power. You watch him, like, he can walk guys back. And I think that's, sometimes there's a 3 technique you're thinking about, win with that initial move and get up the field. He's got that kind of ability, but that length, that's hard for blockers to have to deal with a guy that's that long.
Nathan, why does Kuiper and McShay suck at mock drafts? Seems like they don't actually do any homework on team needs. Most people just do mock drafts because they have to do 50 of them. Yeah. That's what happens, is you have to do 50 of them. And so you just start slapping names to teams and you move on with your day. That's why tomorrow you read Dane's, because Dane will be paying attention to team needs, what he picked for him 4 rounds ago, what that coordinator liked to do last year. Like, Dane, just look at Dane's mock. Don't worry about other people.
Well,
there's like a science when you do mock drafts. I mean, there's, because it's tendencies. What do like we know. For example, the Cowboys, a team they're not excited about drafting a nose tackle in the first round. So you need to know, could we eventually see that change? If it's, say, like a Jordan Davis were to fall a little bit, maybe, you don't rule that out. That's certainly, everything, nothing ever happens until it does. So, but at the same time, you stick to the tendencies, what teams have done, what coaches like. You look at some of the 30 visits, you pay attention to that. For some teams, 30 visits are for day 3 undrafted guys, non-combine guys to get those medicals, things like that. For other teams, Cowboys included, I think there's a roadmap there for what they could possibly be looking at. So there's definitely a lot of like the 7-rounder that comes out tomorrow. As soon as the draft guide's done, that's what I start working on. Trying to put that together, and I put a lot of work into researching each team, where the visits are, where the meetings are, talking to people around the league. So yeah, it's definitely, I could go 0 for 262, but at least it's a fun exercise, not a fun exercise, an interesting exercise, because it makes you really think about what each team's looking for, where they're looking at certain positions, what are the needs, all that. So it's really fascinating.
I bet you'll get at least one right. I feel like you'll get
Hopefully.
one. I think you'll get one.
All that matters is the final one, right? That's
what I've always said. I think anything up to the last one is just you're trying to create. I'll tell you what, Lance Zierlein did a really interesting one yesterday. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say this, and I know plug and play is a worldwide thing for all teams, but if you're a Cowboy fan, Lance Zierlein did one I really, really liked, because what he did was he took all the wide receivers off with the exception of Olave, and he brought Olave all the way down to Dallas at 24. He took Kansas City from their spot, drove them up the board, and picked Olave ahead of the Cowboys. So the guard, it was like
I trade down with them all the time in simulators. It's my favorite team to trade down with.
See, that's what I'm saying. If you really are itching, he created something that a pro personnel guy like myself in a war room, like, okay, who's looking at wide receivers? Watch Kansas City coming from the bottom of this draft. We got to be ready for them. He created an actual war room situation by just doing a mock draft late in the process, where you're thinking like, smart. That's exactly the types of things like a Dane draft, Zierlein draft. Give me scenarios where guys could be gone. Challenge me where I'm going to have to be a little bit more creative. And I think the really good mock drafters can make you do that.
Justin, this is my 8th year of the Beast. Thanks, Dane. Love the show, guys.
Dedication right there. I love it.
Formula is one of the largest supporters of the platform here, and he says, pool fund, party at Jeff's. Tell me more about Otito Agbanaya and Jojo Damon. And I'm just going to watch you guys.
Broaddus, you have any thoughts on those guys? Two Senior Bowl guys.
I'll take Damon if you want to take the other one.
Sure.
I'll tell you what, with JoJo, you're looking at like the linebacker. This guy was a converted safety that's playing linebacker now in Nebraska, and there is a lot of toughness to his game. He's around the line of scrimmage quite a bit. I mean, they find ways to create opportunities in order for him to make stops. I mean, I thought he was a really effective player. You were talking about a runway guy. When he's unblocked, this guy has a feel for how to blitz and how to get right on top of the quarterback. But he'll make his share of stops in the backfield on running plays too. You see his number 13 kind of also knife through there and make those tackles. I will say this, though, he tends to lunge a little bit on some of those plays. But, he's got safety skills and coverage that he uses at linebacker. So I kind of was like him as far as his ability to stay with a man. He's a blitzer. He's a good tackler as far as, again, got to be a little careful sometimes with him lunging. But I love the toughness of the player. Nebraska for a long time has not been very great. They've been kind of a 500 or worse team. But this kid right here, for a conversion, I thought he was a pretty good player.
Yeah, he was basically their nickel player. I mean, they would use him as almost like a slot corner. So, on certain plays, he would blitz, or he would most times he's dropping, and, he's a guy that's really comfortable in space. And obviously in today's NFL, to get a linebacker that can hold his own in space, can drop and cover zones and make plays, that's a premium. One thing I worry about with him is just some of the durability stuff. He's an older guy. The list of injuries is long. And I will say this. So I got the injury information from one of the teams, who they failed, who they passed, things like that. And it's most teams use a number system like this team in terms of 1, 2, 3, 4. If it's a 1, forget about it. They're not even in consideration. 2, probably little chance they're getting drafted by this team. 3 is where you start to compromise a little bit and say we can work with it, and so on. So I don't feel comfortable like actually posting those anywhere in the draft guide or.
You shouldn't.
But I will say this: if you read a report in my draft guide and it says NFL scouts are kind of worried about long-term durability, that's kind of a red flag right there. That kind of tells you exactly what they're talking about. So with who we talk, the UCLA kid, Obonya, 6'4", 325. I wasn't really productive at UCLA. I mean, you could watch the UCLA defense and kind of come and go without really focusing on him. But he's assignment sound. I think that when you really focus on him, you do see some explosive strike skills. He's a guy that I want to see a little bit better versus the run in terms of holding the point of attack. But I still think, as a guy that is still young for a senior, he's, still just 21 years old. He's a younger player for the senior class. He has things to work with. He has really long arms, 34.5-inch arms. And so you're looking at the traits and you're looking, okay, a young defensive tackle at that size, long arms, heavy hands. I can work with that. So I think somewhere early day 3 is where we're looking at with Obonya.
Marcus Hughes, we appreciate you being here. He said, I feel like corner is a sneaky need for the Cowboys. I like Boss Man and his potential, but I can't bank on him. If a corner like Elam falls to them in the second, I think they should make that move. What do we think about the where is it Kair? Is that how you pronounce it? Elam at Florida. Yeah. His tape to me is, I guess the word is really interesting because you can watch stretches of his tape and go, ooh, that's top 15 player.
Yeah.
And then I feel like there's also stretches where you could go, ooh, there's a 3rd-round player.
Then you watch Samford, and you're like, ooh, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I have him as a 2nd-round guy because like I've seen a lot of good reps from him. Press man, just hey, that's your dude, handle it, and he'll go handle it. But not necessarily the same when it's off coverage and hey, you need to stop and change directions and stick with this guy. Whereabouts does that fall in the draft? Is that top 40, top 50?
I'm with you. I have him as a second round player. I think he's like my 43rd overall player, but I did have him going in the first round in my mock draft coming out tomorrow, because we're talking about a guy that's 6'1.5", 190 pounds. He ran in the 4.3s. His 3-cone was under 7 seconds, and you see a guy that's willing to be physical in press. I mean, he will lock guys up and work hard to just take them out of commission. So when you look at the traits, I mean, do you wish he had better ball production? Yeah. Do you wish he was more consistent? Yeah. Some of the timing issues with him, some of the processing issues with him need to get better. But a young player, still just 20 years old. You think his best football is ahead of him. I wouldn't be surprised, when we know corner is a premium position, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see some of those teams in the back half of round one, the Chiefs, the Bengals, some of these teams that we know need a corner, if they look at the traits and bet on those with Elam.
Hey, Reggie.
What's happening?
Sorry. The great Reggie Atatula walking behind the great Bryan Broaddus on camera.
Yeah,
Brian, were you going to add something there before I yelled at Reggie?
No, I'm all good. I will say this, though. If you talk about this kid, what you would do, if you watch the Alabama tape, you draft him in the first round off that tape right there.
Yeah, he goes and jams Jamison Williams up.
He competed against all those guys. You watch the South Florida tape, he's probably not very interested in what's going on. So it seems like, though, against the better competition, I remember his father as a player as well. This guy has got the size at 6'2" at 191. I will want to go back, though, if you're a fan of the Cowboys, though. I wonder how much Dan Quinn is the one that put his neck on the line for Kelvin Joseph. I wonder how interested he is in bringing in a corner to compete with Kelvin Joseph. And maybe this is the year that they don't do that.
Quinn also has his stamp on Nashawn Wright, who the entire world looked at it and went, What the hell are you doing?
That's what I'm saying, though. I mean, they've got a couple of corners there, and I wonder if Dan Quinn is going to be really interested in adding another corner in the first 3 rounds to compete when he wants to see how Joseph could play.
Yeah. Josh said, you guys are awesome. The Beast is amazing as always. Thank you for doing the work for those of us who don't have time to watch all the tape. Believe me, I get it. As somebody who spends lots of time watching tape, looking at how much time Dane spends on it is absurd. That's full time. That's full time, man. Ryan and I are part-time draft guys. That 1,700 guys, that's not fair.
Hey, I mean, I'm not complaining. I have my dream job, so no complaints here.
Yeah, well, you just said that mock drafts aren't fun. Robert, thanks for the beer money. Here's to the 3 best men not working for Derek Eagleton. Go Cowboys. That's from Harry. Are y'all going to be on the 3 days of draft?
We're going to figure it out.
Are y'all going to be on the 3 days of draft on DallasCowboys.com from Formula?
I think I tell you, I know Dane's got his. You're on, Jeff. Just don't do anything stupid. That's all I'm going to say. Don't do anything stupid.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're on. Just we're gonna have fun. Have fun. We're gonna have some fun doing draft.
We'll find out. Vance, trade Micah for 2 first-rounders with Philly. What do you think? No. Why are you doing that? Stop trying to trade the best players. Tommy, let's get a kicker in the draft. Done. I'm planning to get a kicker.
Cade York.
Cade York. Tiger.
LSU.
I'll tell you what, one of the most impressive kicks. I mean, maybe that Adam Vinatieri kick in the snow against the Raiders might be one of the most. Cade York knocked
maybe 66 yards from what's his name at the end of the thingy. Justin Tucker.
Tucker to beat Detroit. I'm talking about game online. I get the game was online too, but my man Cade York knocked one home in the rain, in the fog at
Florida
Swamp to win a game
last year, right?
Yeah. This guy
2020.
Yeah, this guy's made some huge kicks.
Kickers, man. Kickers. Get the Oklahoma guy, Texas guy. The axe is bold for the Brugler College Fund. Thanks for the Beast. Vance, who would be some late round secondary guys that would fit the Dan Quinn mold in the mocks? Evans out of Mizzou, Bell, Florida A&M. Is Bell Florida A&M? He was one of their 30 visits, isn't he? Yeah, Marquise Bell.
Oh, he is a 30 visit? Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and Gray at Michigan stick out. day 3 guys that are long. Like that's my first thought with Dan Quinn. Long, just give me long.
Let me ask you this, Dane. Where do you have Josh? Where do you have Josh Williams going? The kid. Where
Fayetteville.
Yeah, from Fayetteville. Is he a 3rd round guy?
I think so. Yeah, I think he's talk about long, 6'3", 33-inch arms. Low 4.5s. Didn't doesn't have amazing speed, but I think good enough speed. I thought he really handled himself well at the Senior Bowl. That was a big test for him coming from a lower level of competition, facing some better wide receivers, and he did not stick out in a bad way. I mean, he looked like he belonged. So I think that he's going to go somewhere in that 3rd round range.
Nived, you mentioned Amari Barno and being an athlete that simply belongs on an NFL team for attempted development. Other players at the position like him. Oh, yeah, that was on the draft show, Dane. We had to do a tell me more on Amari Barno.
Right.
And I said he's tall, he's long, and he runs fast. And by fast, I mean 4.3. That'll get you drafted. But like his tape is not NFL football player, I don't think. But his measurements are, yep, you get drafted.
34-inch arms, almost 250 pounds, and you run a 4.36. Yeah, it's gonna create a little bit of a stir. But yeah, no, he doesn't have the tape that makes you go, oh wow, yeah, this guy's a player. I mean, the sack production in 3 years at Virginia Tech, he had 10 sacks. It's just you expected more out of it, especially coming off that 2020 season. He had a really good junior year, 16 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks. There was some buzz on him going into his senior year as being one of the better defensive pass rushers in this among the senior class. And then as a senior, he just kind of was there. He just didn't have the impact that you wanted. And so, but he, kind of rebuilt the draft stock after at the combine. He's a hard guy to figure out. I think that you see flashes, but zero consistency from him. So I think he might go 3rd round just because of, you bet on the traits. But I think it's, he could go 4th round as well, a guy that you stash and try to develop.
Is there any other guys that jump out to you as pass rushers, edge guys that are kind of whether it's the something on tape or whether it's those measurables with their athletic testing that are on 3rd, 4th, 5th round where it's just like, yep, that guy has this and this?
Yeah, I know that for me, like that 3rd round is stocked with pass rusher. Like Dominique Robinson from Miami of Ohio. Right. I think most people know his story being a high school quarterback, goes to Miami of Ohio as a quarterback, moves to receiver, then moves to pass rusher, 6'5", 253, and moves really well. D'Angelo Malone, Western Kentucky, another guy that's a little light, 243 pounds, but he's a big-time athlete. You look at Sam Williams, who we've talked about at length, team, or a guy that we think this team's probably interested in out of Ole Miss. One of my favorite players in this draft is Josh Paschal from Kentucky.
I'm glad you mentioned him.
He's different from the Dominique Robinsons, D'Angelo Malones, Amari Barnos. He's not that explosive, just going to beat you with speed type of guy. But I tell you what, he's one of the best run defenders. Run defenders in this class. Is it
Chauncey Golston?
I was just about to say, yeah, exactly. Reminds me a lot of Chauncey Golston, except he might even go higher because he was a lot more productive in the SEC. I think he had 15.5 tackles for loss, which is second only to our guy at Alabama, who's going to be the first non-quarterback drafted next year. So, Will Anderson. So with Paschal, a lot of teams are intrigued by him with, a guy that's 6'3", 270, can play on the edge, can kick inside. There's a lot of things you can do with Josh Paschal.
I tell you, I'm glad you mentioned him because I absolutely love. I think Kentucky's got a good group of guys.
They do.
The receiver, the center, the tackle, Rosenthal. We'll see how that all works out. But I was going to ask you, Dane, Alex Wright from Alabama Birmingham. I was going to ask you about what you thought about him as a defensive end.
Yeah, he's a young player. Came out as an underclassman. He was productive at UAB. You watch UAB's defensive front, you can't miss him. He's every bit 6'5", 270. He had 7 sacks this past year, led the team in sacks. he got hurt. He actually, during doing the bench press at the combine, injured his pec. So he really wasn't able to do a full workout before the draft. So I think that's kind of causing him to be under the radar a little bit. Long-armed player. You see a guy that can be disruptive as a pass rusher. The motor runs hot with him as a run defender. Definitely still learning in several areas. But if I'm going to draft a developmental pass rusher somewhere, 3rd or 4th round, Alex Wright would make a lot of sense.
See, I kind of liked him. I liked what you were talking about him being – you do see some hot and cold. Like you'll see some slow play, and then all of a sudden you see a burst, and you're like, okay, is that the same guy? You know, you're like checking the number. Did they substitute or something like that? But I kind of thought about him in that 4th, 5th round of a guy that, like, you know, you mentioned 6'5", 271. You know, there's a lot of really, really good traits about him. But, I mean, you know, how hard is he always going to play? When he's on, it seemed like he was really good. When he slow played stuff, it was kind of like, well, who is this guy? So just a name to kind of keep in mind.
Yeah, I think a word that I use for, you know, some of these players is ascending. And I think Alex Wright, he would fall under that category of ascending.
Yeah.
DJ Dog, tell me more about Jason Poe and Jareth Stearns, wide receiver, Western Kentucky. Are these made-up names?
No, it's real name.
Yeah, they're real. I mean, Jason Poe is kind of a phenomenon from Mercer, FCS Mercer. You could throw on the Alabama tape and watch him. He is arguably the best pulling guard in this draft. He is so freaky athletic. It's crazy. This guy's he has a weird body type. He's 6'1", under 6'1", 300 pounds. But he tested really, really well. 4.9 in the 40. The 3-cone was outrageous. I mean, he just exploded. I mean, really, do a Twitter search for Jason Poe and watch the clips of him against Alabama. He explodes out of his stance. Just rare pulling quickness, short pulls, long pulls. Some teams are actually looking at him as a fullback because of just how well he moves and how he loves to be a battering ram. But this is a guy that started off, at the JUCO level, went to Lenore Ryan for a while, then goes to Mercer for the 2021 season. He's got a really interesting background. He didn't really play football until his junior year of high school. So Jason Poe, I don't know that he gets drafted, but he's a really interesting player that some teams are going to really give him a long look.
If you're watching Zappy play quarterback, Western Kentucky, you're going to know who Stearns is. Because that's who he throws the ball to every single time, you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
no doubt. And he's not a big guy, but
right? There's 2 of them, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Him and his brother, yeah. But
I mean, he's 5'7.5", 178, so not a big guy, and he's not fast either. He ran a 4.58.
Not at all. Not at all.
But I mean, to your point, he caught 150 balls this year, so I mean, he's doing something right.
Is that draftable?
I don't think the traits are draftable, but you never know. I mean, maybe later on the draft, if a team is looking for an undersized slot receiver, who knows?
I'll tell you what, if you want to draft on traits of hands, he's got hands. Because seriously, that ball, like when it's going down the field, it's usually guys all over him and he's catching it, or he catches it and he's going in. The targets, like you say, you can have a reel of watching that quarterback play, and every single pass is to him. And he doesn't let him down. I tell you what, that receiver does not let that guy down throwing that football.
And he comes from a football family. His brother, Caden Stearns, out of Texas, was drafted last year. I think believes at the Broncos. So there's a lot to like about him there. And if he doesn't get drafted, he'll be a PFA, and I mean he'll get a long look in camp.
Twisted luck, no question. Just love you guys. Marcus has another tell me more, and that would be Coastal Carolina tight end Isaiah Likely. And he'll probably be a 3rd at the earliest, maybe 4th round guy if you're trying to guess where all these tight ends land.
Did you, Brian, did you like Likely on tape?
I put him in the 4th.
Did you think he was a 4.82 speed? That surprised me. I mean,
I did not see that. And that was one of those things that, I watched Kansas and Arkansas State were a couple of games, and
So you saw the 99-yard touchdown.
Yeah,
huh?
I mean, like the guy, they bring him in motion and do stuff with him. Like there's like they're moving him around, like they're trying to kind of get him going and stuff like that. So, but I thought the guy was a pretty damn good blocker, believe it or not. I mean, I was watching. They ran the ball behind him in that Kansas game where he made a really nice downfield block that got a touchdown, just having some awareness and stuff. But, man, I saw a guy catches the ball pretty easily in his hands. I didn't think he fought it at all. Contested catches against Kansas than Arkansas State for that because, again, he was able to separate and adjust a little better. Kansas kind of had him, but I felt like he kind of had a frame at 6'5", 245 that he could probably add some more weight. And you watch him the way he finishes, I thought that was pretty impressive too.
Yeah, and he actually
watching him, it was kind of strange because it was like he was either a really big wide receiver or kind of a small tight end.
Yeah,
right.
It runs weird.
Yeah.
But so like I think I put him in the 4th round too, where it was like, yeah, I would take him on day 3 because I think if he gets bigger, that could be a starting NFL tight end, but I don't think he is on tape today.
Yeah, I graded him as a guy that's got starting potential. It was interesting that he didn't run at the combine at 245 pounds. At his pro day, he dropped to 238, so a lower weight, and he still ran a 4.82. And it's just like, he looks faster than that. He plays faster than that. So I think those testing numbers are going to hurt him. But I think
Weidemeyer would take that 4.82 right now.
Yeah, he'd pay for it.
Yeah, he would definitely do that because I did my 7-round mock and Weidemeyer wasn't in there. So
Brian hates us for this, by the way, because I just wrote something for D Magazine and I was like, honestly, it'd be hard for me to pick him. It's not at 5'04" and a 25-inch vertical. I've had nine knee surgeries. I could out jump him right now, and I think I could outrun him. I think I could probably still bust a 4.9 with the right painkillers on hand. That's a problem.
That's a problem.
That's a problem, Brian.
Hey, man. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut and just kind of hope for the best. You know how it goes.
Brian's trying to take him in the 4th round still. He's like, screw you. I watched him play. He's good.
As soon as he scores his first NFL touchdown, I know we're gonna get a text. Just a picture of proud Brian.
Yes.
It will be me with a tomahawk chop. I mean, I gnawing on it like that. Yeah.
With Dallas's tendencies, this is from Soto Man, to draft teammates who could be an early and late guy the Cowboys could draft, but you can't use Georgia. I'm about to pull up the board. Hold on. You could do A&M if you did Kenyon Green and like DeMarvin Leal, or on like day 3, that defensive end Clemens.
Yeah, he was a 30 guy for the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see.
That one actually makes a ton of sense, Jeff. Kenyon Green at 24, Clemens in the 3rd round. Say they go tight end in the 2nd, you get Clemens in the 3rd. That is a more realistic possibility than I think anything else we might come up with.
How about? I'm just looking at Ohio State. What if you went Olave and Petit Frere?
Well, how about if you drafted Burks and then took Ridgeway to tackle in the 4th?
There we
go. Arkansas D tackle.
Probably have to take him in the 3rd, is my guess. But yeah, that's a good one.
Sauce Gardner, and give me another Cincinnati guy.
There's so many of them. Kobe Bryant.
You can take Pierce, the wide receiver, and maybe this other corner. You can take Bryan and Pierce, right? The wide receiver, and
do that. I'm trying to find all sorts of different ways to. We could trade up a bunch and get Aiden Hutchinson and Daxton Hill. It's just going to cost a lot. We're going to have to figure out how to get up there. It's going to be tough.
Yeah,
you can do Georgia like 8 different ways.
Kyle said Fortner and Robinson. There you go. You got Kentucky players. You can sure do.
Do you have to take the gadget guys, Calvin Austin and Wan'Dale Robinson? Do you have to take them in the 3rd round if they make it there? Can you get them in the 4th round?
Probably 3rd. I think I have them both going in the 3rd in my mock. Let me see here.
Who goes first? Because I thought I kind of liked Robinson better on tape, and then Austin destroyed him at the combine, and I flipped him.
Yeah, I right now in my mock, I've got Robinson going 79 overall and Calvin Austin 90 overall, both in the mid 3rd round. So,
Yeah, here's Kyle again, Fortner and Pascal. We talked about Pascal. That's another good one you could do. Yeah.
Yep, that's a good one.
SEC powerhouse, Kentucky. Landon Canterbury, love you guys, love the show. Do you think tight ends Ruckert and Cade Otton will be there at 81? And Ruckert, if he is, I think you'd have to pick him there because you're not going to get him later.
Well, they pick
You guys-
88, don't they?
What's that? Yeah, well,
They
whatever
pick-
number it is.
Yeah, 88.
Well, it might be a fan from another team. You know?
could be.
Gotcha.
Well,
Yeah.
you guys had to help me with Cade Otton because I don't have him in the group with guys like Ruckert, Dulcich, McBride, Woods. Top of my head, I think those are my top 4 tight ends.
Yeah.
If a tight end, when I'm watching, I get kind of bored. I don't put him with the other guys where I'm like, here's the traits I like. With Otton, I didn't really have traits to write down that I was like, yep, that's why he's going to be good.
Even if it's not his fault, the offense sucks. I mean, because that was kind of the issue with Washington. The offense sucked.
Yeah.
So Cade Otton, they hit him. I mean, they didn't get a chance to let him go eat, and so but I'm with you. I mean, I agree with what you said about the top 4 tight ends. Those are also my top 4, with Cade Otton being the 5th. In my mock, I have Ruckert coming off the board in the 90s. So Ruckert, I love. I mean, I think he's one of the best tight ends in this class. It's just that foot injury that's really sidelined him throughout the process is going to hurt him. But if you told me that Ruckert went in the 60s, I would not be surprised at all. I would totally get it.
Hey, Dane, can I ask you a question real quick? Because we've talked about Woods from Virginia a bunch, but I'm hearing some whispers and stuff that there's some teams that really aren't very high on him. But I've talked to some teams that like, no, he's like a 3rd-round guy, and then other teams are like they weren't too interested in him. Was he a guy that came on late?
Yeah.
And that's the problem right now, or people or teams having to catch up on him?
Yeah, I mean, he's on that list of guys that have just crushed the process. Christian Watson from North Dakota State's on there. I think Jelani Woods, making that transfer from Oklahoma State to Virginia this past year, and he did well on tape, but I think the grades were 5th, 6th, 7th round back in December. But then he goes to the Shrine Bowl during that week and was outstanding. Goes to the Combine and rips off a 4.6 for a guy that is, 253?
6'7", 253, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, he ran one of the fastest 40-yard dashes. I mean, he ran faster than some of the wide receivers. And his 3-cone was great. He was under 7 seconds in 3-cone. So I think a lot of teams are married to those grades back in the fall and what they saw in person or on tape, and and that's fine. But what they do during the All-Star circuit, what they do at the Combine, like that stuff matters. And so I
think this kid got killed. I think this kid got killed for a chance to go to the Senior Bowl because of those grades.
Oh yeah, no question, absolutely. And to be fair, I think it's a really strong tight end group. So
Sure.
you look at the tight ends that went to the Senior Bowl, and it was a really good group. But I agree with you, based off of a lot of what a lot of teams thought back in December. He was viewed as a later round guy, but I think what he's done the last few months has put him in that 3rd round. I think that's exactly where I'm going. I'm going in the 80s. So I think that's a very likely landing spot for him.
Well, I think that's the traits thing that like you're talking about on
Right.
a different level and different place of the draft with Trayvon Walker. When I watched Jelani Woods on tape before I knew his athletic profile, you have catches that other guys can't make because they're not that big. You have many plays that other tight ends are getting tackled because they're not dump trucking through people left and right. And so it's like he's got the traits. Then you throw in that athletic ability, and somebody should pick him in the 3rd round because
Hey,
if
he
you
told
hit
me
that one, you might end up with a freak.
He told me he caters his game after Mercedes Lewis, and I think it shows. I mean, I really think it shows with the way he plays. And Mercedes Lewis has been a solid pro for 10 years now. So Woods, he could carve out that similar type of career.
Robert, we should trade one of our 5th round picks for Taylor Rapp. Where's he going to play?
Why is he available? The Rams need him.
I don't know. Do they have enough safeties now? Fuller will be healthy again, And
Well, what's his name retired?
yeah, the guy that came back and then retired.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that I wanted to do that like a year ago, but I think you have your safeties. And
Weddle, right? What you saying?
Eric Weddle, yeah.
Yeah, Eric Weddle.
Levi dropping bombs in the super. Bruise for the boys. Been wanting to catch you guys live for a while, but these hospital shifts give me some weird hours to not be a half asleep zombie. Appreciate you guys. You're a monster, Levi. Big Smoke Broaddus. I like your cut. What's the chances we take wide receiver at 24? So he's liking your hair. Your hair's looking good. Everybody knows that.
Like the flow?
Chances of wide receiver at 24. I mean, there's 3 guys that are first-round receivers on their visit list.
Yeah, like I said, I really do like what Lance Zierlein did with the mock. I love possibilities. Just if you pick guys and you say, oh, well, he's going to be here, here, and there. And I think you have to be a little creative when you do these. But, yeah, I mean, if a guy like I would be really interested to see if their stack in 2 spots. I want to see their stack in 2 spots. I want to see their stack at wide receiver, especially with, I think London is gone, but okay, Olave and Burks. If those 2, who between those 2 do they like? And you could say, oh, well, Arkansas guy, Jerry, and all that. The thing I would worry about Burks is, will Kellen Moore know how to use Burks? That's where I would be a little bit concerned if the Dallas Cowboys took somebody like that. Olave, I remember I've had visions of like Terry Glenn with better hands, the quickness, the in and outs, the size and all that stuff, the sideline awareness, both feet down, red zone. I mean, that's kind of what the vision I got. I think they're setting themselves up for taking, again, the wide receivers, give me that stack, and the guard, give me that stack. And if in fact, I'm interested to see in their minds if the linemen are better or higher rated than the wide receivers, because I think that'll tell me a lot right there as far as how they have those grades go. Because, yeah, they could absolutely take a wide receiver. Olave be in there? Sure. Why not? Sure. Why not?
Natural. Oh,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dan. But that is a natural segue because Rock with me in the Super wants to know our wide receiver stacks, and I know that mine is going to be very different than everyone else.
Sky Moore, wide receiver 1.
2.
Wow. Hey, props.
Wide receiver 1 is Garrett Wilson. 2 is Sky Moore. 3 is George Pickens. 4 is Traylon Burks. 5 is Jamison Williams. 6 is Drake London. 7 is Chris Olave.
Interesting. Yeah. And I get it with Olave. I think he's an easy player to like, but he's
don't break tackles. You can jam him up and he doesn't break tackles.
That's it. His play strength, his size, he's not going to give you anything after the catch. That's something that, it's certainly bothersome. But I don't, at the same time, I don't think he's going to be there at 24. I really don't. I think Chris Olave will be off the board. He has to get past the Packers at 22. Not to mention all the teams in the top 20, but the Packers at 22, teams potentially trading up like in that, like Lance's mock. So I would be surprised if Olave makes it 24. But if he does, I think he'd be a nice fit for this team, because one of the strong selling points with Chris Olave is he's ready tomorrow. Like he can step like that. We have to remember with receivers, Traylon Burks being one of them. It takes time. To develop that chemistry. For a lot of years, wide receiver was number 1, the position that took the longest for most rookies to make that transition, because everything has to be pinpoint. The timing between you and the quarterback, the routes, you have to deal with press, which you're usually not used to that. And that's something with Traylon Burks. He didn't have to deal with press at Arkansas because they use him in the slot. They use him in the backfield. Yeah. So there's a lot of things with Traylon Burks that I love. But I do wonder about how the timeline, the trajectory in terms of how long before he's ready to step in. Where with Chris Olave, he has a release package where he can defeat press. He has the route running skills where he can find the blind spot of corners and get open on his own. And then, the ball skills, the hands downfield, the pure speed to win deep. So with Olave, he can come in and play tomorrow. And that's going to be appealing to a lot of teams, Cowboys included.
Probably the sneaky crucial thing with the Beast. This is from Vance. Player pronunciation. How important is that to Dane?
Very, very. It's the first in the background section. The first thing I do is put their name, followed by even if it's a semi tough name, include the pronunciation. So because there are times where I watch these guys on tape. I'm not hearing their name all the time. So
Right.
There'll be times when I'll forget exactly how to. Oh yeah, it's a long A there in the middle. So yeah, it helps me as much as everybody else.
See, that's like 10 years of working with me. You're so sick of the way I jack names up that you're like, damn it, I'm going to help Broaddus out here. I'm going to pronounce, and even I jack them up when I have the pronunciation like you have. So I appreciate you doing that, man.
Michael, Marcus Jones, legit player or special teams at best? And there was another comment.
I
that
think
said
he's
Marcus
legit,
Jones-
man. I think he's
Yeah.
legit. I think there's some
he's legit, too.
I think there's some, you could have an all-American team of short guys in this draft, and every one of them you would be like, you take that Georgia linebacker, you take Marcus Jones, you could take some wide receiver. I mean, there are a lot of short players in this draft that people are going to like, every one of them that gets drafted, I'm going to make a note where they went, because I guarantee you, it's funny. I always talk about size in this game and stuff like that. These short guys do make impacts in games. They really do. It's something about their ability that Marcus Jones, you watch him cover and he's knocking down balls or intercepted passes. You watch the SMU game, SMU goes ahead, final seconds game, they kick in the ball and the son of a gun takes it to win the game. That's what Bill Parcells talked about. Hey, if I take you to the game, how many plays you're going to play? That's the kind of guy he was talking about right there.
And he's a guy that he's been out of sight, out of mind. We haven't seen him. He wasn't able to work out the Senior Bowl, wasn't able to work out the Combine, no pro day, nothing, because he had surgery on both shoulders. And he's going to have a big discount sticker on him, on his tag. And he could fall to day 3 because of it. Yeah. He's a small guy who is dealing with, or just underwent, surgery on both shoulders. That's kind of a tough sell in a war room. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if he does not go on day 2, which is where his talent says he should.
Yeah.
But with you factor in the size and the durability concerns, he's going to slip a little bit. But all that means is there's a team on day 3 that's going to get a really good player.
I think so too.
Yeah. 9 return touchdowns in his career, 6 kickoffs, 3 punts. This is a dude that 42 passes defended in his career at Houston the last over 4 seasons. So there's a lot that Marcus Jones to really like.
Mike, after hopefully going O-line with the first pick, where do we pick again for O-line and who? If the Cowboys had the stones to take Linderbaum in the first, you could then take a guard in the second. But I think it's more likely you would go guard round 1 and tackle in 3 or 4. What's
really real quick, Jeff, I'm sorry. What really sucks is the fact they're talking about drafting a guard when they've had 2 guards that they had a second-round grade on McGovern that might be a bust, and then Connor Williams didn't work out for him. And Connor Williams played, a little bit, or not a little bit, but he's not here. So now they're having to try and fix the problem. And the thing you want to understand is, do you trust them to fix the problem? If it's a first-round guy, plug-and-play guys have been pretty good for them. But if it's been one of those guys that they've let 2 guards. They've drafted 2 guards since, and neither one of them have played. Now you have to look at maybe drafting another one. So we'll see.
Can I give you one of my favorite late round tackles in this draft that I think that the Cowboys, he'll be on the radar. Ryan Vandemark from UConn, 6'6.5", 310, 35 3/4 arms, really long player. I think there's something there. Non-combine guy, but 6th round. Hey, throw a dart at this kid if you're the Cowboys. I think there's something there with him.
Michael, appreciate you. King Shadow, wasn't the A&M Edge a Dallas Day, not 30 visit? I don't have Clemens on their 30 visit list, so I would think that was Dallas Day. Jeff,
he took a picture with Jerry Jones at the Star, so I know he was there at some.
He was there, yeah.
Yeah.
Another guy who I've heard they might kind of be interested in, even though he won't be available when they pick, that maybe they've talked to. Sauce.
Why waste your time? He's going to be a top 7 pick.
I'm just saying that I heard that maybe people have talked to him. Jeff says, based on where Dallas is picking, they tend to do the opposite of what people expect. What pick there would shock you the most in a good way? Linderbaum.
Yeah, Linderbaum.
Kobe Dean.
Yeah,
I think
Devin
Lloyd. I think Lloyd would. I think I would be really happy about Lloyd myself.
Dax Hill.
Dax Hill would be
Hill.
interesting.
That would be a surprise.
There's a lot of momentum for Scene right now, huh? A lot of momentum for him, and you know that maybe that people might think that they have Scene over Dax Hill. I said this a bunch when I was watching the first time I watched Dax Hill. I thought he was getting picked by the Cowboys. I really did. I mean, the first time I ever saw him, like December, January, whenever it was, I said, "This is the Cowboys pick. This is the Cowboys guy right here."
Yeah, I didn't even have him left on the board at 24 in my mock. I think Dax Hill is he's a hell of a player.
Yoon, does Zion McCollum tape match his testing?
Oh, yes. The kid from Sam Houston? Yeah.
You think so?
Play. I think so. I mean, it's funny because you watch, like you're saying, he's covering guys. I mean, they play good football down there. Let's not.
They won the national title in spring of 21.
To me, I mean, I'm scurrying from my notes right now here, but I kind of felt like that this guy he's clearly one of those guys. I was wondering when it came to recruiting, why is this guy not playing at Baylor? Why is this guy not playing at SMU? Why is this guy not playing at one of these, these Big 12 schools? That's the first thing I thought about. Because he's 6'2", he's 199 pounds.
That's why you have the beast. It tells you exactly why.
Why?
Come on, Brian.
He committed to Utah the summer before his senior year, and then so I mean, there were looks by bigger schools, and the thing with him too is he had a twin brother, and he wants to play with his twin brother. And his twin brother actually tested really well at the Sam Houston State Pro Day. I didn't think that Zion was like speed deficient or anything like that, but I didn't see him running a 4.33 and a 6.483 cone like that. That shocked me. But I thought he was a good athlete on tape, but to the all-time testing numbers at the combine, that surprised me a little bit.
Maybe you see that if he's playing at Utah, where he's playing against guys that can actually run and stuff like that. That. I honestly, I didn't know his story. I'm like, what the hell? How do you miss on this guy? But the fact, hey, get the beast, read it, figure it out. I mean, that's exactly why you got the thing. But yeah, I mean, to me, at 6'2", 199, I'm kind of, you got my interest, man. You got my interest.
Rapid fire, Fedarian Mathis or Perrion Winfrey, and could the Cowboys grab one of them at 88? I would have said Mathis on tape after Winfrey's Senior Bowl. I might take Winfrey first.
It's got to be Winfrey. There's so many. That slanting front and that Utah defense or Oklahoma defense didn't really give Winfrey a chance to shine. I mean, the traits, the length, give me Winfrey.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, though. I do love the Alabama kid myself, but I think Winfrey's a better player, yes.
And let me see here. Michael, James Houston, Jackson State, under the radar prospect?
It's linebacker, right?
Yeah, it's probably more of an edge guy, but he was a Florida guy who remember that credit card scandal? 4 or 5 years. He was part of that. But he couldn't get on the field in Gainesville, transfers to Jackson State, and he lit it up. I mean, he had like 30 tackles for a loss last year or something. So he's a guy that definitely has a chance to get drafted. He did get drafted in my mock draft that comes out tomorrow.
Formula, why are these draft sims so low on Ed Ingram? Well, low is just relative to what we tell you. You don't, we're not the end all be all. We're just humans. I have him as what do I have him as? A second rounder with Kennard. Brian, you probably have him as a second rounder, but maybe higher than I do. Dane, what, like a 3?
Late 3, early 4. I don't think he made my top 100. I'm really worried by those testing numbers that he put up at the combine. Like that worries me. 20.5-inch vert. I mean, that tells you that lower body explosion. Just that does really worry me. And when I had a lot of guards kind of packed together, it kind of,
that's a separator.
It was.
Yeah.
Cluster buster.
Daniel, defensive player will be BPA at 24 over O-line and wide receiver. I hope it's Devontae Wyatt personally. Devontae Wyatt's very good.
I'll tell you, everybody that mock drafts Devontae Wyatt, to me, I absolutely love their mock draft. I really do. I think he's going to be a hell of a player.
Hey, real quick, would it shock you if the pick is anything but a receiver or a left guard?
Not shocked, but
Not
mildly
shocked,
surprised.
but yeah, I'd be surprised. I mean, I think the one defender that they would take is Lloyd. That's the one guy I think they would take.
Picks 19 to 23, New Orleans through Arizona. Which teams might take a wide receiver or O-lineman?
New Orleans, definitely. They need a left tackle. They need a receiver. No doubt about that. 20 Steelers are taking a quarterback. Packers, they could use a tackle. They could use a receiver.
Packers told me that they're looking for maybe they're looking linebacker. They're looking wide receiver, also looking edge. I think was another thing they mentioned. They
need defensive line, both inside, outside.
Lineman, yeah, and maybe a safety too is what they were talking about.
Avery said, "What would be the most shocking pick of the first round?" If you're not talking about Cowboys, I would be shocked if David Ojabo went in the first round.
Yeah, that'd be shocking. I won't be
shocked if Boye Mafe or Arnold Ebiketie go, but I would be like, bad pick.
I'd be shocked if, let's say the order of these quarterbacks. Like Desmond Ridder was the first quarterback drafted.
Yeah.
Like that would surprise me. But I think that's a realistic thing. I mean, it's these quarterbacks are all over the map in terms of how teams view them. So it shouldn't surprise anybody, but I think it still would.
Final one, King Shadow. You missed my 2-month message, but thanks for the draft show content, Jeff and Brian, and thanks, Dane, for the beast. Love listening to you guys on Wednesdays, and keep doing your thing, Jeff. Love you guys. All right, appreciate you. You guys have a parting message for the people?
No, we're what, 2 weeks away. That's awesome. I can't wait for it to be here to recap instead of trying to predict. So looking forward to it.
I was going to ask you guys real quick though, Dane, do you worry about guys getting talked out about some of their picks, some of the national media scout guys and stuff like that, changing up some of them? Just by maybe they're talking to scout buddies and stuff like that.
Well, like Daniel Jeremiah will have guys in April move 20 spots on where he has them ranked.
I was wondering how much do you think guys are getting influenced at this point?
Well, and I think it's tough because a lot of these guys, they don't start doing this until January. So, they watch 5 games and they move on, but then maybe in April they revisit and they realize, why? I don't know why I had. So it's, I understand why you see more fluctuation where that's not realistic with teams where you see all of a sudden these big gaps. But pay attention to it because that usually means they're talking to someone and they made the move for a reason. It's something to pay attention to.
Well, I just know, like I said, there were a lot of these scouts that told me, listen, that Jermaine Johnson, the kid from Florida State, he goes, you guys are way too high on him. And now everybody's talking about him as maybe the 11th best player in this draft or something like that. So, the scouts aren't always right, and the media scouts aren't always right. But I mean, make sure if you see what you see, keep your focus on what your board is going to be. Try not to be so taken by what everybody else is saying. That's all I can do. That's what I see.
The number one thing is don't try to be right on draft day. Try to be right 3 years from now. And that's the key thing, which we kind of get lost about in terms of, there were 79 of my top 100 players were drafted top 100. That shouldn't matter because a lot of those guys will bust. I mean, be right a couple years from now.
Right.
Shout out to Sky Moore and George Pickens. And Michael on the way out the door tried to sneak in an extra one. Position Dallas may be overlooking. Quarterback.
Overlooking.
Running
back.
Safety.
Draft. That's just history. That's what they do.
But I'm just saying, what a great year to maybe draft a safety if you could.
And a linebacker. Go ahead and get you a linebacker.
Linebacker. Yeah.
All right, the end. Dane Brugler from The Athletic. Check out his 7-round mock draft tomorrow. And, of course, make sure that you are subscribed so that you have access to the Beast. Bryan Broaddus, you hear him on 105.3 The Fan and on the draft show on DallasCowboys.com. They're sweet men. This broadcast activity has been brought to you by my friends at Bet Online. Use the promo code BLEAV, BLEAV, and get 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. And remember, you have no idea what anybody's going through, so be cool to everyone.